So let's start very simply here with the launchpad of the S/4HANA system. So I'm sure you're familiar with this already. So just to warm up, start with a little bit of navigation. So I'm sure you're aware we have the spaces here, which can have multiple pages. I'm logged on here at the moment as a sales rep. I'll be showing later also some financials examples. So we have two different kinds of areas covered. Of course, as you know, you can obviously clicking here, and that takes you to a space here, customer returns. This is a very simple space. As you can see, just 3 apps on it, only one page. You can, of course, go directly to an individual page within the space of internal sales, for example. So let's choose here sales processing. And you see then, of course, the applications in the various sections. And of course, if I scroll down, you see there's quite a lot here. So let me show you now, start with some tips and tricks, how you can personalize the layout. For example, let's see if we can get everything on one page so you don't have to scroll. You can, of course, here immediately, without going to edit mode or anything, already start moving applications around. So let's say move this one over here. And then we see, we have a version 2 of sales orders and the original version, but we only want to use the newer version, of course. So let's personalize this to remove some applications. So you can do that here in the user settings menu, or the user menu, user actions menu, and you can go here into the edit current page, and that's basically the entry for now editing each of the pages. And you can do this for all the pages, obviously only if your admin has actually allowed that in the system. So admins can actually turn that off so that it's kind of set what you have. But if it's been turned on, then you can personalize yourself. And here you can, let's say we want to get rid of this older version here, and let's say we also want to get rid of this one here. So you can see you can very easily get rid of tiles or applications. And now let's have a look at how you can move them around. So here you see we have payment cards with just the 2 applications. What you can do, for example, is also change the format. So we can, for example, let's just convert this into a link. So you see it takes up less vertical space. You still see most of the information here. So let's do this also for this one here, convert it into a link. And now that we have it as a link, you see there's only one app in this section. So let's move this up here. You can just drag and drop, and then that is also converted into a link. We see here now in this section here, complaints, we have 2. So yeah, let's do the same there. But of course, these also have numbers here showing that how many requests are there. So we don't want to lose those. So moving up here as a link, but I'm losing the number. But don't worry, you can here, for example, let's convert it into a flat wide tile, and then you see now it's taking up less vertical space, but you still have that information. And let's do the same for this one here. And automatically it's converted into a flat tile, not a flat wide one. But of course, you can also convert into a flat wide tile like this. And there you go. You see, if I now click on close, you'll see how we've now rearranged the screen so that basically you actually now see everything together. Of course, now it's not just payment cards here. So let's maybe just go back here and rename this to payment cards. Simply credit and debit, and close it here. And now you see you've got the cards, credit and debit all in one area, the quotations and contracts down here. So you can see it all at a glance without having to scroll. So that's one area. Of course, all I've been doing now is rearranging, but maybe you want to add new applications. And of course, you can do that as well. So if I go here into edit current page, you see here you've got, in addition, you can of course add sections as well, but you here have add tiles. So let me just do this. And now what you see here is quite simply the app finder. And guess what? The app finder helps you find applications that you're authorized for. So all the applications in this list are ones that you have authorizations for. I'm here now in a demo system with a demo user that has a whole load of roles assigned, so you probably don't have quite so many. You can see here a list of the various areas that you can look at. You can, at the moment, all are selected. So if we scroll through, we see all the apps that a user can use. Let's just click this one here, monitor product availability. Then you see that app will be added. If we want to, let's say, look for sales tracking, of course, you could just type in sales here. And this is important. Type in the search here on the right, not here at the top. because the top would just be the general search, which I'll show you later. Here is the search within the catalog. That's something that can be perhaps a little bit confusing. And now you see here, if I scroll through, you see the various sections. These are equivalent to the sections on the left for sales. And if I go down here, let's say I could also, of course, click here on the left to, let's say, sales order processing, for example, and you can see already we have some already on the selected on the page. And of course, I could, of course, also, if I want to do track, just enter track, and there's only one application that has track in the name. So, the search is pretty powerful as well. Let's select that, and then simply clicking on the logo takes me back now to the edit here. And you see I've got the two applications now added. If I close this, you see here, of course, that they are. And the great thing is, you can play around and do all this. And of course, you don't have to worry because, if you think, oh my God, I've messed it up now somehow, I've deleted stuff and I can't remember what was there, you can always go back and simply reset it. So if I go back here, let me just do this. You can simply here reset the section. And let's do this for the other sections that I adapted here. Reset the section and reset this one and reset this one and close it. And there you go. We've got the page in exactly the same layout that we had before. So you've got here the version 2 and the version 1 and so on. Okay, so that was showing you how you can sort of personalize a page. Obviously, the tiles are here so that you can start your applications. And of course, obviously, clicking on a tile starts the application. That's pretty obvious, I think. But there are other ways also to start applications. Instead of navigating, let's say, to another page and then starting the application, you can, for example, go into the menu here and look at your recent activities. And the recent activities, in fact, are not only the applications that you started, so that's why it's called activities as opposed to applications. It also includes activities like searches. So here you can see I've searched, well, for everything. So it's like blank. I've searched for sheet, which you'll probably see me do later, as well as opening up these applications. So that's what's available with recent activities. And you can also, if you want, go to the frequently used. These are then actually frequently used applications. And of course, then selecting one here will immediately open the application. And you can go directly to frequently used here as well. So you can just go here, frequently used, and then click on the applications that you frequently use. So you don't have to necessarily go to the, navigate to the right page and so on. So that's one way. And of course, another way, very powerful also, of course, is just using search. And let me show you how you can do that. So let's say you want to one of your manage applications, you can just type in manage here, and immediately in the drop down you see the most recent manage ones that you've been using. So you can just select one of these directly, or of course show all 26, and then you see basically the search result here. Of course, that's limited to this number here. You can show more, and then you really see everything. So that's an easy way to find applications and start them quickly. Now, search is much more than just searching for applications. So you see here this little arrow. You can click on this, and you see here, and like I said, my demo user has a lot of roles, so I have a lot of objects that I can look for. But if we look at the sales area, let's choose sales orders, for example, and let's say the customer cycles for you has called up and has an issue with one of their orders. So I can just search here by clicking on the entry. That immediately starts a search. And you see now on the left here, because this is all one type of object, sales orders, you can filter also by attributes of the sales order. So document date, for example, overall status, and so on. So let's choose now, for example, the in-process sales orders for cycles for you. And you see here now there are five of them in total. So it's a very powerful way of finding objects. And you see immediately also quite a few details of the sales order. So sold to, party shipped to, and so on. And of course, you can navigate directly to the sales order, but also you have other actions on sales orders. So maybe you want to do a flexible analysis or look at the delivery performance for that sales order. You don't have to first open the order and then navigate away from that, you can do that immediately here. And of course, we only have a little space here to show 4 actions, but with the 3 dots, you can actually see even more actions that are available directly. And of course, these are not only available for the first one here, you can expand any of the other entries, as you can see here, and also then get access to all of these quick actions. So that's one example of search. Let me show you another example. Let's maybe take, instead of sales orders, let's take sales quotations as an example, and now actually search for all quotations in the system that are available to me. So it's, of course, also based on your authorizations. And now you see there are 664 quotations here. And what you also see is there's this graphical opportunity here. So you can, in fact, not only have lists like this. So let me just show you that. So if I go, you can personalize that yourself. So here's a list, but you could also have, for example, a pie chart, or in this case, a bar chart. And if we look at, say, those that are in process again, then we see that there are a total of 23 in process. Again, you can look at the pie chart, you can see how it's distributed. And these are interactive. So if I click on World of Sports here, then you see the 6 items for World of Sport. And again, I could, of course, have done that similarly with the bar chart. And there you see the 6 quotations. So, yeah, I think that's, it gives you an idea of the power of search. And I'll show you also how you can even define. At the moment we have all of these. I'll show you in a little bit later when we come to the settings how you can even have your favorites. So you could maybe just search over a couple of these objects, the ones that you typically search for. Okay, so talking of settings, let's start before I come to the search settings. Maybe I go here to this area here. Let's go to the overview, for example, and just start the overview page just as an example here in sales. What you can do in the settings, you can change the appearance, for example. So let's actually go here into the actual settings menu. And you see here, for example, the appearance. At the moment, we're looking at the latest visual look, if you like, or we call it a theme, visual theme for Fiori, and that's the Horizon theme. But and of course, this is also something you can only change if the administrator has given you authorizations to do that. Now we're in the demo system now, and you might have heard about this. We have once a year a very big customer conference running in Orlando. It's called Sapphire. That's actually running this week, and so the demo systems have been kind of frozen, obviously, so that people don't mess up the demos for for customers, of course. So here I can't actually change directly the theme to also one of the older themes, or potentially you could even have custom themes with custom logos and so on. But here you see that this black and white is indicates that actually it depends on your operating system settings. And what you can do, let me just show you here. I'm actually in a Windows system. You can in fact personalize the colors that you have on your Windows. So if I convert this to dark, for example, then you see not only does Windows color change, I'll just close this here, but you see also how the actual S/4HANA system now is showing the dark mode. We call it the evening horizon in this case. But let me switch back here to the light mode. This is again depending on the settings in Windows, and we're back here in light mode. So that's one of the settings I wanted to show you. We also have, for example, user activities. If you don't want to actually have your recent activities tracked, you can turn that off. Here on the language and region, it's also quite convenient. You can choose a decimal format. So in Germany we don't use a decimal point, we use a comma, for example. Of course, in England or America, you use a decimal point. So you could personalize that how you want to have it displayed. Time format as well, for example. Do you want a 24-hour format or different 12-hour format? I'll be showing default values in later. That's relevant for applications. With notifications, you can also see some activities. And with search, what I want to show you here is you can actually switch this on. By default, it's switched off, but you can switch it on. to track your search activity, so that if you regularly search for certain objects, then they will in the future be higher up in the search list. So it's a little bit, like how Google adjusts the search for your favorites, so to speak, or your activities. You can have the system actually kind of personalize the search results by selecting this. And I mentioned before, you can have a favorites up here. So in this drop down, instead of having apps and the list of objects, you can also choose which of the various connectors, we call them. So which of the objects do you want to actually have? And then you would see them in the favorites. I won't do that now for time reasons. Okay, so that was a quick look at the various settings you can do. Now, I've already shown you quite a lot of stuff, and you might be sort of thinking, "Oh my God, how can I remember all this?" It's there's quite a lot to remember. Well, don't worry, because we actually have help for you. And so let me maybe go back here, and you see here at the top the help icon that's available everywhere in this what we call the shell bar at the top, and what we have. Is, of course, you see when you do click out, you see these little green bubbles here with a question mark. This will actually give you information. So here you see about the notifications, for example, or you could also, here on the very left, there's one here explaining how to personalize a page. So you go into edit current page, add a tile. So, the stuff I've been doing. You see also here on the right, these topics are here as well. So you don't have to necessarily scan the whole page for the question marks. You can find them here. So personalize a page is this one. You click on that, you get the description. And what we also have for the launchpad, for example, is a quick tour. Which the very, very first time you log on, actually, that'll be proactively shown to you, but you can always revisit it here. So if you're on any page in the Launchpad, you can start the quick tour, and this gives you a brief overview. So you have a get started. You can see a little animation here. You can go directly to a page. So I'll for example, if you want to adapt the layout, and you see here also a little GIF, bit of an explanation, also links to interactive tutorials. You can, of course, navigate here using the arrows as well. So here you have the next section on search, showing you how you can search here, or here how you can change the appearance. So you can have the light mode or dark mode, and then finally click here, how to get help. So in other words, how you can simply click on the help icon and get help. So that, of course, is obviously helpful, I hope. Now, if you want to go into more details, you can also, we have these so-called tutorials. So this is the sort of academic hat icon here on the very right. I click on this. You see that we actually have here two areas of tutorials. One of them is working with apps. Click on this. You simply see here a whole load of tutorials listed for working with applications. And we'll be looking at some of the content here in a moment when I come to showing you tips and tricks for working with applications. So you have each of these are individual tutorials. So I'll just close that. I need to actually go back into the browser window here. And here, let's have a look at working with the Launchpad, for example. Here you'll see 3 tutorials. This indicates that this one has just been updated. So you see here updated content. I'll just go actually to the oldest one that we have, the SAP Fiori Launchpad, just so you get an idea of what it looks like. And so you see for each of the tutorials, you actually have a PDF document that you can look at, and also an interactive tutorial. So if I start this, you see here, this is, like I said, quite old now, so it's got the older quartz theme. And you can just use the arrows to click through, and it shows you then various aspects. So this is the classic homepage, for example, and then we come to the new spaces and pages in a moment. So here now it's explaining the new spaces mode, and you can continue clicking through the arrows. Here you see the the area that's marked, and sometimes there's not an arrow on the actual box here. You'll see that in a moment. So here you don't have an arrow here. So how do you continue? Well, basically, then you click here where it's marked. So here, you're actually clicking on the notification icon, and then you see what would be opened up, the notification area. And if you continue, now how do you close it? You can, again, click here to close it. So that's basically the idea. You can, of course, continue through these tutorials very easily. We're going back into full screen mode. And the last thing I'd like to show you is this megaphone here. If you click on this, this will show you what's new. So what's new since the last release? So you can find out news, and let's just take the first one here. So this is the new in-app help experience. So I've been showing you the help here on the launchpad, but it's now actually available for all applications within S/4HANA Cloud. And so you can see a bit of an explanation, and even in some cases, even a video here. If I click on play, I think I should be sharing the sound as well.
In-app help in SAP S/4HANA aims to improve your day-to-day user experience.
And of course, you could expand that to full screen. So I won't play the whole video now, of course. So that is a sort of summary of the help you can get, and how you can find out what I've been explaining to you more or less. Now let's move to tips and tricks when you're using actual applications. And I said I'd be not only showing sales, but also finance. So let's go to the finance view. So here we are. I'll also go full screen here. And I've already opened up the application, process receivables. And this is one of the typical new Fiori applications that you have, where you have a sort of filter at the top, and then you can press go and you see the data. And before I show you actually and start entering data, what I would like to show you also is an additional help that's available. And this is So we had a quick tour. I showed you the quick tour for the launchpad. We also actually have a quick tour for applications. And here you can see this. So the very first time actually that you open up, so if you're a new colleague, for example, using the system, the very first time they open up any of these applications with what we call a list report, they would automatically get the quick tour shown to them. And from then on, it's not automatically shown, but you can go to help and take the quick tour. And you see here then, same kind of idea as we had with the launchpad, only this time now it's it's for working with this kind of application. So if we get started, we get to the introduction, if you like. So you have a list here, and you can interact with it. Again, you can navigate to the various sections. So how to search and filter through the list, how to adapt the filters, how to set default values. And again, there's a little GIF here, so you can, you have a bit of an animation. You can save the views, adapt also even table settings, and of course, navigate to details. And this is, if you like, a table of contents, what I'm going to be showing you right now. But as you can see, if you can't remember, then you can just take the quick tour, and that'll remind you how to do things. Now, talking of help, what I would also like to do is actually show you one other aspect of help that we have. And let me just, for example, search for sheet here and go into the balance sheet application. For some applications, as you can see here, now we have a new icon. We have also these so-called guided tours. Now, we don't have very many of those, so that's why I picked this particular application, because that does have a guided tour. And you can see here, there's one guided tour called Display Plan Data. And if I start that, it takes you step by step through the application. So the application is still here live in your system, and I can, let's say, click here and enter a company code. Let me choose 1010, go to the next one. Then it asks for a statement version. Let me take this one here, and it goes through here. And at the moment, you see this is actual, but it's asking me to change to actual plan. So I can do that by choosing down here, actual plan, and continuing here. Now it asks for this. Let me enter PLN and continue like this. And now I've entered all the various filters that I want to use, and I can press go and then see the data. Maybe look at the balance sheet view. And then basically this then explains how you can go into details and so on. So where we have this guided tour, of course, that's helpful, obviously, to understand how to go through the application. And of course, these filters then filter the view you're looking at. Now, you don't want to always have to necessarily enter all these fields every single time you start up the application. So, and maybe you want to, store them Okay, so that next time you come in, you can just use those sections again. And what you see here is you can actually store these, what we call views, very easily. So at the moment, when I started the application, I was using a standard view. This little star indicates that I've actually changed the settings. So I've actually put some values here for the filter. And what I can do is, in fact, here save this now as my own view. So let me call this, for example, company code 1010. And I can set it as a default, which means every time I start the application, this view will be used. I can make it public so I can share with colleagues. And also apply automatically means that when I start the application, then go is automatically pressed, so to speak, so that the data is already shown. So if I save this now, there we are, company code 1010. And I can see here also then I can switch back to the standard. Here, this doesn't have the auto start, so to speak, so I'd have to press go to see the data. I go and choose the company code 1010, then that is automatically started, and I see the data. Now I mentioned, you saw I said set some of them to public. To actually see what other people have shared and created publicly, you go here into the manage section, and now you see those that are visible, your favorites basically are visible in this drop down. So the standard one, 1710, and now also the company code 1010 that you just created. And you can choose other public ones. So let me just choose, for example, predictive accounting here and Reiss, just as an example, and save that there. And now you'll see, of course, here, if I open up the drop down, you see now I've got these also here in my list of views that I can switch to and fro. Okay, so that's a simple way of changing the filters and filtering and saving views. Now, what I want to show you also is, of course, you might be using lots of different applications, and you might always only be responsible for company code 1010. So do you really want to have to always, in every single application, go and enter the company code and save a view for that? Well, no, you don't probably want to do that. The good news is you don't have to, because we have here settings. So let me, for example, open up another application. Let's take here customer line items, manage customer line items here. And you see company code is empty, so I'd have to enter 1010 again, maybe save a view. But I don't want to have to do that everywhere. So what you can do is go into settings, and here you have this default values, and you see some general values, and here financial accounting. So they're grouped by the various responsibility areas. And if I enter now, let's say 1010, then every time I start an application like this, the company code will automatically be set to 1010 if I don't actually select a view specifically. So if I save this now, I have this. And now if I go back to the previous application and now going to custom, manage custom line items, open it up again. Now you see automatically the company code is set. And that'll be the same for all the applications that you use. So that, of course, is very convenient. Obviously, if you've defined a different company code, for example, in one of these views, then of course that would be taken. So only if the field is blank, then the default is used. Right. So we've been looking now at the you're saving views and having defaults. What if you wanted to actually filter on different fields from these 5 fields that you see here? Well, the good news is you can also adapt the filters yourself. So if I click here on Adapt Filters, you see the fields that are available. So you can, of course, scroll through the whole load. And let's say we want to actually add now the transaction currency. So you can filter here also very easily. So if I type in trans, you see have transaction currency. And this adapt filters pop-up is actually also pretty powerful, because you can, in fact, also filter directly here. So I do show values. You see I could enter in, for example, euro. And if I pressed OK, then I'd be filtering directly also on transaction currency euro. You can also play around here. So if I at the moment I'm looking at all the fields, but you can in fact also select here, for example, only the active ones. So those are ones that have values entered. What you could also do is not just enter direct values, you can also have conditions. So if I actually go in here to value help, instead of just choosing one value, I can define conditions. And here you see a whole load of different conditions. So starts with, ends with, less than or equal to. And let's in this case do a does not contain. So in this case, I want to look at non-euro values. So let me type in euro here. And you see the condition is basically does not contain euro. This is the shorthand for it, so to speak. And if I press OK now, I will, of course, now have to press go. I'll see then the data for postings that don't have euro as the transaction currency. But of course, I want to actually see the transaction currency in the table here. Well, so far we've been looking at these views here, the settings here. And perhaps one thing also I wanted to show you is that you can, of course, also change the order of the fields. So you can just drag and drop, for example, and move it this way. Or you could, of course, also just use the arrow buttons to move them up and down. One thing I just wanted to show you as well. Yeah, so that was the filters for the actual application. But you see many applications have a table in them. And of course, you might want to have a different view of the table depending on your selection here. So in this case, I've got the transaction currency. So I'd rather than the standard view, look at the amount in foreign and local currency. And now you see, by changing this view here, you see also that the layout of the table has changed. So I now actually have here the transaction currency. And if you look at the overall company code currency, of course, you can have a total. Obviously, if you've got different currencies, you can't have one total per se. But what you can do, if you click on the show details, you see the total in each of the currencies. And just as an example here, you see US dollars. These obviously cancel out. So the total, there are 3 entries with dollars, 100,000. So the total is indeed 100,000 US dollars. Now, let's show, you can also, just like you can adjust the filters for the application, you can also actually personalize the layout of the tables and what you see here. And this is done using this settings icon here on the table. So if I click this, you see the various columns that are shown. Now, since I've selected company code, I don't really need to see the company code in the table. That's just a waste of space. So I could deselect the company code, for example. And what I could also do is I could change the order of the columns, of course. So I mean, again, just like with the fields that we saw in the filters, I could use drag and drop to change the order of the columns, or of course also use the arrows. So it's the same kind of interaction. What I can also do is sort through the table. So I've got this is a default sorting, but of course you could change that as yourself. You can also filter if you wanted to, filter certain values, and you can also group in the table. So here, let's do this now by customer as an example. So let me group by customer. And if I press now OK, you'll see the company code column has disappeared. And I have the customer. I can open up and see details for the customer. And what's also definitely worth mentioning, you see now the star here because I've now changed the layout of the default. And just like you have with the filters for the applications, you can also manage your own views on a table. So I could save this as my own view. And one thing I'd also like to mention is that you can, if you wanted to, adjust the columns. So you might want to make this even, let's say, narrower or whatever. And if you save that, then also the column width is saved in your view. Okay, good. So yeah, so looking at this at the moment, you can see, of course, the data with the non-euro transaction currency. What I can do, of course, is remove the transaction currency and click on Go. And then I simply see, of course, then the balance the customer line items for all my customers. Let me look at the clearing data now for, I can select the view clearing data here. So I see all the clearing data for all my customers. And just as an example, let me choose one particular customer. I'm going to choose Hypercom AG here. And look only at the open items and the cleared items. And then I see, of course, the clearing data for this one customer. You can see we've been doing a lot of business with the customer here. All right, so that was kind of showing you how to filter and the application and the tables and create your own views also there. The last thing I'd like to show you, and then we can open up for further questions, is navigation. So here you see in the table quite a few of these blue links on blue entries. These are navigation links. And if I click on this journal entry, for example, you see here then I could navigate then directly to the display of the journal entry, but you see also other links. So you can navigate to applications that also work with journal entries, so the item or the journal entry itself, or the process flow, and so on. And in fact, what you can do is you can personalize these. So I mean, let's say I think actually the default that SAP ships would have these three here. And if I wanted to, for example, look at the process flow, then I could, of course, scroll through here and select it, or of course you could search here. So if I do process, then you see the process flow. Let me choose the accounts receivable. I could actually also directly click here and go directly into that view. But if I check mark here, then it's always in this list available. And if I do that now, let me just show the process flow. I'll see, to click on it properly. There we go. You'll see now the process flow for the accounts receivable, which is quite neat, I think. And obviously these have been cleared. And in fact, you can even here click on this to see then further information, and also even here navigate then from here to further related items for this accounting document. So that's, I think, quite powerful. You can also, of course, click on any of these links to get more information. So let's look at what it looks like for master data. If you're looking at a customer, then you see not only the link to the customer, but also directly the address, which can be, of course, convenient. And of course, further links here for working with customers. And of course, same principle, you can add more links yourself if you want to. And if you click on the main navigation link, this takes you to what we call the customer fact sheet. It gives you an overview of the customers, the basic data, but also contacts, bank accounts, the company code, and so on. Okay, so with that really wraps up my my presentation for today, and with a summary of the tips and tricks. And again, you can always open up the help to find take a quick tour or learn more about the application. So let's maybe now open up for any further questions that you might have online.